All right, and we're now joined with Joel Comm. Joel, thank you so much for being on.
Are you sure you want to do this?
You know what, the pre recording of this show has already been fun.
Mic drop. We out.
Yeah, right. And let me start off on a side tangent. I hate the term dad jokes because one, I'm hilarious and I'm a dad, and I think puns are awesome and funny.
Me too.
Yeah, I don't like dad jokes. It means like no, we're not all Phil Dunphy-esque. Right?
Here's what's funny. My son is now a young adult. He's 25, going on 26, and I used to be accused of dad jokes, and every now and then I'll hear one from him, and I'll be like, and he's like, "No, that's not a dad joke."
Look what you've become.
No, he is adamant that his joke does not qualify. Somehow it's more intelligent, and it's just not. But it's funny.
Okay, so this is a backhanded compliment. You look younger than that, which is great for me to say on a podcast.
How dare you backhand me with your compliment?
Right.
Yes, I do act younger than I am, and some accuse me of looking younger than I am.
All right. Well, so how does
115, but I use a cream on my face every night.
The serum.
Yeah.
The serum. So actually, how does one 25-year-old react to a social media presence? So you're old enough that like it seems, does it seem weird to him that dad is a big social media presence?
No, I mean, I've been an internet entrepreneur since they were little. I mean, I've been at this 22 years in the online world. So, that's all he's known. He was 3 when I started the business. My daughter was just born. So for them, this is just who dad is.
Okay, very good. All right, so seeing that we started kind of in the middle, now I'll start from the beginning.
Let's do the end and then the beginning.
This is like the Seinfeld episode where we go backwards, or Memento. Right.
I just watched that film again for the first time in like 8 years. I love Memento. I just think it is one of the most brilliant pieces of film work ever. And it doesn't matter how many times I see it. I just don't tire of it.
I tried to watch it trying to look for holes to say like, oh, you didn't look. Nope. They did
You can watch it. There's actually an edit on the DVD that I have, the collector's edition, that lets you watch it chronologically. So it does it all together until it gets to the place where the storylines meet in time and finishes. And it still works as a chronological piece of film.
Okay. Well,
it doesn't blow you away.
I was fanatical about it, but you've taken it to a different level. So you're the guy that does the DVD extras. I'm not.
Rarely do I watch them. This was one of the few times that I've taken the time to delve into the extras.
That's awesome. You'll say what you are to that is Kung Fu Panda and Fantastic Mr. Fox and the Wettrick Home. Those two films are sacred. Matter of fact, our old
kids that are still young enough to enjoy that then.
Well, so I mean, I've got a 16-year-old, 13-year-old, and 8 at the time of recording. And
excuse me while I laugh at you.
Yeah. So like our oldest like made new friends. We moved to a new town, and so she had these people over, and she's like, "Hey, let's watch Fantastic Mr. Fox." And 2 of them had never heard it before, and then one of them just flat out said, "I don't like it." And there was this awkward silence in the room, going, "Well, this relationship is over."
It's that good, huh? I mean, as an old man, would I enjoy it?
Wes Anderson. Do you like him or not?
Yeah. I mean, I could.
Okay.
Did he do Magnolia?
No, but I love that movie.
Yeah.
But no, Fantastic Mr. Fox has a fantastic cast. So we're talking George Clooney. Like every Wes Anderson film always has Bill Murray, Luke and Owen Wilson, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. But it's Angelica.
Good to know.
It's fantastic.
I will check all the Netflixes for it.
I think this is going to be the most unusual podcast because I'm just going to record this as is. I'm loving this already. So
no edits.
No edits. So if somebody were to say, who is Joel Comm? I a decent part of my audience already will know who you are. But if you're like, hey, I'm Joel Comm, and I'm
just a guy who is curious and creative, likes to have fun, likes to innovate, likes to play. And along the way, some cool things happen.
Yeah, 14 books.
15 actually is number 15 is shipping to me right now. I just got the notice from my publisher that there's books coming my way. So
I am firing my researcher.
Yeah. And next year will be number 16. That's also in the works and in the hands of a publisher.
So, okay, to be more specific, and I'll even say how I discovered you.
Under that rock in your backyard.
You had embraced Meerkat / Periscope early, and you have been deliberately transparent in your journey, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on. Oftentimes, and you can get into the early, Meerkat and Periscope stuff, but it is my opinion that I want my students to be also equally transparent. So not this podcast has to be all about education, but if you're doing something good, I want it to be for an audience bigger than one. I don't ask my students to do things and projects for me. I ask them to do them for them and then to build an audience, because if you're working your tail off and it's graded by one person and that's all it's ever seen by, then I have issues with that. Walk me through this really big social amplification we've seen. I mean, we've seen it for a while, but my gosh, over like the last 3 years, it's been unbelievable.
So are we talking about live video in particular?
I think let's start with that, because I've seen that's where you're really prolific.
Well, I've had a lot of fun with that. I've actually been doing live video online since 2008, back when Ustream.tv was available. And that was, of course, you needed to have some pretty fat bandwidth, and we had a T1 going into my office. You had to have the camera gear and the computer that would support that type of processing. And what else did you need to have? Software, right, to make it all happen. And so we did a show called Comm Live out of my office every Wednesday, I think at noon, for a couple of years. And so I was no stranger to live. And in 2014, the apps started coming out for mobile devices. And I think one of the first ones I used was called Hang With, which was a project that I think had investment from 50 Cent and Larry the Cable Guy and maybe a couple celebrities, but that was not the app that really exploded. It was at South by Southwest in Austin in March of 2015 that Meerkat was released. And it was the perfect storm. It was the intersection of mobile adoption being at fever pitch, because everybody had, iPhones or Android devices. And I say everyone, I mean, most people, were past the mainstream adoption curve. And we had the bandwidth, even on cellular, to be able to manage the live video streaming for the most part. And we had an easy to use application. Meerkat, you tap in, you sign up, you click, you go, you're live. And so I was one of the ones at South by that was we were on Meerkat for hours on end. We were streaming. And then during that same event, Twitter announces that they purchased this little app called Periscope, which is their version of Meerkat, where you can go live. And then from there, Facebook comes out with Facebook Live. And I was one of the ones that got that early, being an influencer with that little blue treasured check mark. I was fortunate enough to get in Facebook Live when it was just on the Mentions app. And, it's just been crazy since then. I love live video. I think it is the most social form of social media that we have. If you push the button to turn this into a Hangouts on air right now where somebody could see it, we're doing it, right? We would be broadcasting live, and we're face to face. It's as close as you and I get without being in the same room. And you're creeping me out just a little bit, so maybe it's best that we have this distance between us.
Right, as I visually put my hand up to the monitor. No, I what I love about that time, and ironically enough, I was at South by Southwest EDU, which was around that time. But you're right. All of a sudden, there's an explosion. It seemed as though Meerkat had beat them to market at first, and then Periscope from there. But I am now hearing people say, well, why should I use it? Joel already has a big following. You said you had that blue check mark. Walk through, to that person that says, okay, I really got something special, but no one will watch what I'm doing. Rebuttal.
Well, woe is me. I'm just going to go eat dirt and I'm not even going to try anything. I mean, look, there are 2 billion people on Facebook. Okay. That means when you go on Facebook Live, you have an opportunity to begin reaching that audience. If you have something to say, there is no faster, less expensive, and by less expensive, I mean free way to go about building an audience. Say something important. Say something, drop some knowledge that people haven't heard, inspire people, touch their hearts in a way that they need to be touched, entertain them, make them laugh, make them cry, wow them, bring them into an experience that they haven't seen, that they can participate in. And this is how you build an audience. This is not rocket science. If you know something, if you are doing something, if you are experiencing something, if you want to share something important, then there's never been a soapbox like this before. And so nobody gets to say, well, so-and-so's got an audience. Guess what? We all started with nothing. When I came online and built my first website, I had no visitors, no followers, nobody knew. And I built from there. And there are people today that are building from nothing. And because they believe in what they have to say and what they have to share and bring to the table, they're building significant audiences.
I want to echo those things and scream them from the mountaintops one more time because
can we just rewind and play it again? So I have to say it
that's not true. I will.
Maybe play it at double speed though, so we can get through it faster.
2x. No, I love the fact that yes, this is now basically free. The social amplification is there, but the thing that I really loved what you said is doing something. I mean, there is a niche for everything.
It's niche.
I mean, there is, and it seems like the more micro.
You're not going to fight me on that.
Okay.
It's niche.
Tomato. All right, okay. Niche. I'll go with you.
Well, here's why I want it to be niche.
All right.
Whirl.
So you don't want to sound too European?
Well, yeah, maybe that a little bit, but really, there's a book title that there's a book I'll never write. With this title because it won't work because of people like you. And the book is about finding your thing, right? And calling it a niche you can scratch.
Okay. I'm going to grab from my cafe.
But it doesn't work. A niche you can scratch makes no sense.
I'll let
you fall off.
You're the guest. So I will, from this point of, I will call niche. So, but I do like that because now, well, heck, you even had, and let's see this, I did my research, your latest blog post was the fact that your podcast on Bitcoin, you had a passion for it and you thought maybe there's an audience, and then it turned out to be successful because you narrowcasted. And my gosh, the cost now of doing a podcast are really, really minimal.
Yeah.
I'm trying to stress this to more people, especially my students, more and more, do something. Heck, even in the Wettrick household, I will tell my kids, I don't want you to be a consumer of everything. I want you to be a producer. But if you wrote a book about your life, would anybody read it? If you're like chapter 1, I'm on my cell phone, swipe, like, heart, unfriend. No one reads that. Mm-hmm. So if you find something you truly lock into, and you can weigh in on your new podcast on Bitcoin, but if you have a particular niche where you think that you have some opinions that other people might hear, how many Game of Thrones podcasts are there now? How many, things that people are wanting to talk about Silicon Valley and things of that nature. This is it's the greatest time to be alive. You can be a content producer. You can be a content producer tomorrow. And that excites me.
Me as well. The access that we have to both reach and engage with and grow an audience, we've never seen this before. And you're right. This whole thing with cryptocurrency is something that really started tickling my fancy 3 or 4 months ago. And I'm involved in a number of other things. I've got books, I've got, my speaking engagements, I've got other podcasts and live videos and brand influencer stuff. And there's a lot going on. And yet, like everything else in my career, it begins with a curiosity and then a fascination. And then I see how deep the rabbit hole goes. And this whole crypto world just grabbed me by the throat, just gently though. And I was talking about it with Travis Wright, who's a friend of mine. It just so we hadn't been close, but we've met each other a couple times and have spoken, and we just started talking about crypto. And one day he messages me and he jokes, with the little laughy, teary face emoji. He says, "What's next? The Joel and TW Crypto Show?" And I saw that. I said, "Yes,
thank you.
Yes. In 2 days, we had everything set up and we're recording our first show. And what's really funny is of this interview today, we just broke another record with hours to go in the day. A podcast that was started just over 3 weeks ago is almost at 20,000 cumulative listens, with over 2,500 today alone. And we're having a blast, and we've tapped into something. And see, I think everybody's got that something, but you have to be willing to pivot and get outside your comfort zone. I'm new to the crypto world, and the beauty of it is there's so many others that are new, and we call it the Bad Crypto Podcast.
Right. Because I can hear people, because I know too many people like, well, I need to maybe do a couple months of research before I pass off like I'm an expert. I'm like, okay, case in point. Actually, I reached out to you via the Anchor app. You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
So you have a lot of people that want to get to you. And I thought, you know what? The quickest way to probably get to Joel is on a new platform where he's not crowded yet. And so I can do what I can. And so you got back with me, but the Anchor app itself excites me because, and matter of fact, this demonstrates to people's mentality. I wrote a piece not too long ago and saying, hey, get your students on Anchor, because I think that, hey, if we talk about authentic student voice, I don't care if they're doing a thing on Romeo and Juliet. If you put it out on Anchor, it might get you good feedback. It might just get one listen. But then somebody wrote back and they go, well, that's not smart, because the quality isn't there and they may not have a channel on iTunes. And I was like, well, A, you can have a channel on iTunes from Anchor, but B, it's the point of just doing it and getting that first feedback.
Yes.
If somebody's like, hey, here's my new podcast on freaking cryptocurrency, if it sucks, you invested the 10 minutes it took to press record. Yeah. But if you get feedback of saying, dude, this is pretty good, then you start building up. And I love the fact that you even started yet another podcast, because you're like, that was fun. The barrier to entry is next to nothing. And I'm just wanting people to do.
Especially kids, these students that, they're passionate about so many different things, and whatever it is, the opportunity to start now. Oh my gosh, if you told me I could start a podcast at 16,
literally.
Oh, right, mind blown.
Yes.
I'm in the second half of my life now, and, it's all downhill from here. Even though it gets better personally, there's only so much time to build and create, produce. They've got their whole lives ahead of them to build up something really significant.
Totally agree. And the speed of which, heck, nothing would make me happier if I get an email saying, hey, during your podcast with Joel, when I was listening to it, I downloaded the Anchor app and had my first post. Matter of fact, in class the other day, I was encouraging them to get on Anchor. And before the day was over, one of my students, she'll be happy that I'm saying this, but she downloaded Anchor and she lined up 3 interviews for the day, because she was talking about wanting to talk about local politics. And so she started to email during class instead of listening to me. But she started to email local politicians, because she's like, if it's that easy, I'll start tomorrow. And
it is. People want to be interviewed. Now, let me just, because you're mentioning Anchor, I'm a little on the fence with Anchor, and I'll tell you why. First of all, I don't want to discourage anybody from trying it. Try it, do it. It's a great way to at no expense, get your feet wet.
Right.
And see what you think of content creation and podcasting. But here are my problems. One, when it goes up to iTunes, it always has that thing at the beginning that this is produced by the Anchor app. To be able to produce your, it's like, okay, do I have to listen to that every time? 2, if they don't survive, I don't have access to that podcast channel. My show goes away. So Anchor is a gateway drug to podcasting. That's free. Do it, try it. But if you decide that you're going to get serious about podcasting, then you want to use a service called Libsyn. Libsyn stands for Liberated Syndication. They have plans that start at like $5 a month, and it distributes your podcast all the places, and you control it.
Today's podcast brought to you by Libsyn.
I need an affiliate
or
commission.
SoundCloud or Podbean. So no, I totally 100% agree with you. I just want to take.
I'm not sure if I'm going to continue on Anchor or not.
Yeah, well, and I'm the only reason why I want to promote it somewhat is just for the things that you talked about, just for getting your feet wet, because I've had some other people that they'll invest and they'll get a SoundCloud premium and they'll buy a mic and after 3 weeks they're like, I really hate this.
Yeah.
So if you
don't do that.
Yeah, and I've matter of fact, one student in particular, the way he, I'll just give a shameless shout to Jack Caroselli, like the way he signs on and signs off, and he sounds professional. And I'm like, man, things are going real well. I think that he should progress. He might have outgrown the training wheels of Anchor. So anyway, I've given them enough free press, but I do like your message. Get out now. If you've got something, do it. Now, along those lines, then the video sharing. Where do you see things like Periscope and Facebook Live going? Is this a trend? Is this here to stay? And this is, I'm asking two questions in one. And do you think this is a threat to YouTube?
Yes to all three. It is a trend. It is here to stay. And yes, it poses a threat to YouTube. Everything Mark Zuckerberg touches poses a threat to every other social business on the web. And I mean, as it is, they're decimating Snapchat from multiple angles. And, Facebook Live isn't just Facebook Live. It's also Instagram Live and Instagram Stories. And it's WhatsApp, right? And it's Messenger Day, and it's Facebook Stories, all these different venues. And I just read today that they're starting to work on augmented reality stuff that'll go into Facebook Live. So, when you look at Snapchat and you have the little animated creatures that are in the world, the augmented reality, Facebook's going to have the ability to do that. And the new iPhone is going to have augmented reality stuff built into it. So all of this is moving very quickly. Yes, it's trending, but the trend isn't going to stop. It's just going to increase. As of now, over 1 in 5 videos posted on Facebook are live videos, and we're still in the early adopter phase as businesses, brands, and individuals begin to latch on to how do we leverage these tools to create compelling content.
Right. Okay. You beat me about the next follow-up. So once again, as the room becomes more crowded, speak to that guy or girl who's kind of on the fence and saying, okay, how am I going to get ahead? How am I going to get noticed? Because, one, I love early adopters. I love them. And usually to the victor goes the spoils on that. So if a person's like, okay, I'm just now starting out, how do I stand out? How do I help market that?
Well, first of all, there's a mindset to when you start, because today is always, just today, and we don't know the future, and the future is days, months, and years ahead, right? So we can't really see, but we can always look back and go, man, I wish I started this a year ago. For example, Bitcoin, 5 years ago was sitting at $10-12 per Bitcoin. Today it's at about $3,400. I wish I had then. Okay, so I got into live video, really started 2.5 years ago when Meerkat came out, and people might say, well, I wish I got in then. Well, guess what? Today is the day that a year from now you will look back and say, yeah, I started a year ago and this is where I am, or I wish I had started a year ago. Yeah. So you've got to begin somewhere. YouTube is a great channel for watching video. There's no doubt about that. But and there's a lot of people using live as well. But I think they're more likely to have existing audience. It seems to me more difficult to start from zero on YouTube because Facebook already has the built-in social element, the friends list that YouTube doesn't have.
So wow, you're bringing up a different problem. So yes, the people that are already getting some live views are because of their existing friends. How would one start breaking out? And obviously, and a lot of people don't know, like Facebook throttles you. Like organic growth is a lot harder because they're like, hey, pay for some ads, which I get why. But like for the really hard earned organic growth, live video, how do you do that?
Well, look, viral marketing isn't something you do. Viral marketing is something that happens when you're a good storyteller. And by a storyteller, I don't mean once upon a time, or it was a dark and stormy night. By storytelling, I mean that the content you create must be compelling enough that people will share it with others. That's the essence of viral marketing. So the knowledge that you share has to be compelling. The inspiration or motivation that you bring has to be compelling. The talent that you might bring, whether it's playing guitar, singing, piano, comedy, magic tricks, whatever it is that you're doing, playing kazoo, which somebody could have the kazoo show, and I'm sure it would draw an audience. Or the experiences that you're sharing. About, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago, I live in Denver, and the art of the costume, the Star Wars exhibit, was touring and was at the Denver Art Museum. And I went and I fired up Periscope, and I watched as I was touring, just showing people and saying, oh, like Princess Amidala, and there's Darth Vader's outfit, just showing people on my 45-minute tour. The numbers kept increasing because people were like, this is cool. And they were sharing what I was experiencing. And when those numbers grew to a certain point, apparently the Periscope team picked up on it. They featured it and the numbers went zoom. And it's had like 180,000 views to this little trip, this experience that I shared with people to the Denver Art Museum. And experiential videos are nothing more than where you are, who you're with, and what you're doing. That's it. Like if you can't think of any other content, but you want to have interesting experiences and share them with other people, that's a great way to build a channel.
Yeah, I like that. And this, I always harken back to when people talk about how all they're going to create this content, and Gary V is always hollering this, document what you do, don't necessarily create content, just do what you do, press record from time to time, and kind of storytell that way. So I like that mindset. You mentioned YouTube and the difficulties that are seeing that the trends are, the barrier to entry for these like daily storytellers. Obviously, you said it's maybe a little bit easier for Facebook and live video to do that, but YouTube still has a stranglehold on a lot of content creators. What are some things that they should be fearing that they may not yet?
Well, I mean, there's some basic things. I'm not exactly sure what you're going for here, because I believe no fear, just go for it.
Well, I mean, I'm asking where is YouTube possibly making it harder for people that Facebook isn't, and is that going to come back and bite them?
They're actually both doing it. There's censorship happening on both YouTube and on Facebook. There are political motives from the owners of these sites. I'll let you guess which side they're on based on where these companies are based. And there is unfair treatment. You can have on YouTube, you can grow an account, and if they don't like what you're doing or they want to categorize you in a certain way,
you'll always be throttled.
Throttle your revenue, or they can ban your account. See, here's the problem with building on rented land. And this I'm going to harken back to, I'm going to use harken again because you used it. And I don't want to harken back to when you used the word harken.
I'll see your harken and I'll raise you in a ditch.
I'm holding a full house of harken. I'm derailing myself as well. So when you build on rented land, then you're ultimately giving them control over your content and whether or not you have the right to be there. This is why I'm a big believer in always having your own blog, having your own website. It's your own real estate. Nobody can kick you out of your own house. You pay for your hosting. You control the website and what's on it. You can have your videos in multiple places so that if you did lose an account somewhere, you can embed them, from elsewhere, or even host them yourself, with an Amazon S3 account. There's a lot of ways to accomplish this, but building on rented land comes with risk. And when we talk about Anchor potentially going away, I think about Vine, which was a service, a social app owned by Twitter, that there were people that had millions of followers. They built their careers on Vine, creating these short videos. Guess what? Twitter pulled the plug. Vine, gone. The videos are out there for people to download still, but those people that built their fame on that platform, now where do I go now? I'm homeless. I've been kicked out. Where do I go? So I think that those are legitimate concerns, and you want to make sure that wherever you're building, that you've always got a place to call home.
That's a really good point. Yes, because I've seen, obviously the Vine thing, but well, heck, in some cases, their overt treatment of certain people. I guarantee you every morning, Milo wakes up and says, boy, I'm so glad you banned me from Twitter.
Right.
Yeah.
Which was ridiculous. Look, I think any free speech proponent would say that the banning of at Nero was Milo Yiannopoulos' Twitter handle was unfair and heavy-handed. There's people on a daily basis that threaten murder, that say some of the most heinous things on Twitter, and Twitter just they turn a blind eye. There's really some horrible the editor department of Twitter, what they will allow and what they don't is really obtuse.
Yeah, I agree.
Obtuse, or did I just select an obtuse word? I'm not sure. It reminds me of the time that I hearkened back to when you hearkened.
We're circling it back.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want this podcast to go too niche into puns.
Thank you for use of the word proper pronunciation, though. Niche.
This has been my third time. I'm not sure if you noticed that. No, I also feel the same way. Although I will say sometimes having trolls makes people more aware, makes them grow up. But yeah, when you're being throttled by your rent, I love that term. When you're rented land, that is great. In one case, they have a platform in which you can shine immediately as opposed to building it by yourself. But I guess your same thing with Anchor. Like if all of a sudden you're building a big YouTube community and they are not playing ball with you, then you take your audience. Who's that? Glenn Beck.
Yeah.
Is that right? When he left CNN and whatever, and then he eventually started his own network because he didn't want to be.
Yes. What if they weigh the anchor? What if they pull it up and then that ship has sailed? Oh, the metaphors. And I'm not saying they will. It seems like they're on a good path, but I don't know what their financials look like.
Yeah.
Running a social network for free is challenging. And I would imagine, while I don't know this for sure, that they'll start putting advertising in your podcasts that you're putting up for free to go to iTunes, or they'll just start charging you to be able to have those podcasts. They have to have a monetization model, or else they won't have a business, right? And that ship will sail.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, I appreciate all this. I really enjoy the fact that you have been as hyper transparent with your life. You go on Periscope. You talk about things. Really great pronunciations of words. But more and more, I'm just hoping people will take that plunge. Like you said, the day that you decided you want to do a podcast, you can that day. The day that you want to decide to do, political vlogs, you can that day. And I think that's wanted to go to the source on that. Last question. So you said your book's ready to be out this week. Tell me about it.
It's called The Live Video Revolution. It's it's a pocket book. It's a smaller title. I think 90 pages is what I'm expecting to see. That kind of lays the groundwork for why live video is the biggest leap in social media since we've been able to go social on our smartphones, and how the opportunity is just ripe for individuals, businesses, and brands of all size to start leveraging this tool to build their platform. It's fantastic. So I can't wait to get this into the hands of people. And it reminds me that now that the book's on its way, I need to get the website built so that people can get it.
Okay. So yeah, that was my next question. When it does come out, where can we find it? Is this going to be an Amazon thing? Is it going to be direct through your website?
It's really funny you say that because I haven't searched Amazon. This is going to happen right now. I'm going to search right now to see if it's listed. Live Video Revolution.
Can I get my Brent Musburger? You were looking live.
There it is. The Live Video Revolution, how to increase customer engagement, make more sales with live videos. There it is. It says it's coming out November 28th, though. It's actually, I think they need to ship them to Amazon but this is the first time I've actually seen it. There it is. Boom.
You got the live local late breaking right here on Started Up Podcast.
This is exciting.
So if definitively you think it's going to be available when?
Well, they got it for pre-order now, but if they're shipping me books, then I would say Amazon will have them in their warehouse probably in a week or two.
All right. Very good. I can always edit this out later. Could you send me 2 copies that I could give away?
Yes, absolutely. You don't have to edit it out at all.
That's nice
of you. Send me your address in an email or message, and we'll take care of it.
All right, man. I was just about ready to say.
Can I speak directly to your audience about something? I just want to encourage your listeners. I appreciate what you do as an educator. I think that teachers and parents are the most underpaid profession that we have because of the significance of what you bring to young skulls full of mush, right? As you're shaping minds and futures and destinies, having the ability to not just inculcate information, but inspire them to do. And what you're doing with this podcast, I think, is inspirational for kids. And I just want to echo back to all those who are listening that you're super smart and wise for listening to your teacher here, whether he's your teacher in the school or whether he is your proxy teacher from afar through this podcast. And listen in and keep listening, and then do something, whatever it is. Take action and do something, and you will be glad that you did something, because whether or not that something ends up being the something that persists, it will be something that will put you one step closer to the thing that will take you where you want to go.
Well, I appreciate that. And for that matter, that's one of the reasons why we wanted to start this podcast, is that I'm even asking and begging for more teachers to be transparent. I'd like to hear more teacher podcasts. I'd like to hear what's going on, because one of our beliefs is if the moms and dads and aunts and uncles think that you're doing something great in the classroom, that's nice. But, we steal. If there's a lot of English teachers out there that if they hear somebody like doing something really cool in an English class, they'll steal it. And that's good. So that's part of the spirit of this, is like, when I was talking about students picking up podcasting, hey, it's for all of us, whether you're a teacher or whatever. Great ideas and the exchange of great ideas is what it's really all about. So therefore, Joel, I have I will still, give you hearts and message you in on the Periscope when you go live so often. And other than that, I sincerely appreciate what you do. Appreciate you being on the podcast, and also, just A, supporting us as well, and those nice words you said, but B, just being an example of being transparent and just doing.
Well, it's my pleasure.
All right, Joel Comm, thank you so much.